Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. A few months ago, I released a video about the Navy Federal Flagship Visa, explaining how to unlock up to $80,000 in credit, even if you currently had a bad credit score right now. Now, I did have a one-on-one coaching where someone asked me to do the same thing, but show them how to do that with the cash rewards card. So today, we're going to take that exact same proven strategy and apply it to this new target, the Navy Federal Cash Rewards credit card, and I'm going to show you how to scale it up to $50,000 even if your credit is far from perfect. This is the same step-by-step process that worked for me, starting with the $200 secured credit card with Navy Federal and now having over $50,000 in total combined credit. The reason this method is so powerful is because it doesn't rely on any tricks or shortcuts. It's all about consistency, timing, and understanding how Navy Federal's system actually works. I'm going to break down exactly how to get approved despite your current credit score and how to grow your limit over time and how to leverage this card to unlock other funding opportunities. So if you've been struggling with low limits or denials, you should get a lot of value from this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we talk about the cash rewards, let's talk about why Navy Federal is such a unique credit union. Navy Federal is the largest credit union in the world with over $190 billion in assets and more than 14 million members as of 2025. But what makes them truly special is how they lend. Unlike traditional banking institutions that rely on shareholders and profit-driven policies, Navy Federal is member-owned. That means every decision they make, from interest rates to credit approvals, come from serving their members first. And because their lending pool is funded by members' deposits, they can take more personalized approaches. Navy Federal also uses something called an internal score. This is one of the most important concepts that you need to understand before applying for anything with Navy Federal. Your internal score tracks your overall relationship with them, your deposits, your accounts, and even how often you're using their products and services. I have an entire video that shows you how to build your internal score with Navy Federal, and I highly recommend that you watch that video. I'm going to link it right here. Now, every positive action that you take strengthens your internal score and your trust rating with this credit union. The higher that score climbs, the more Navy Federal trusts you and the more likely they are to give you large line approvals, even when your credit score isn't perfect. That's how people go from having a $500 secured card to a $25,000 unsecured limit. Navy Federal doesn't just look at your credit report, they look at you as a member, and that's why this strategy works so well. It's built around their relationship model. Now, let's address a question that I get very often. How do you actually become a member of Navy Federal Credit Union? Almost every video like this, I have to address this because it's always going to be a question. A lot of people believe that you must be in the military to qualify, and while that's technically true, there are actually many more ways to get in than most people realize. I recently re-released a video breaking down the Navy Federal Pledge Loan where I briefly touched on this topic, but again today, let's make it crystal clear. Yes, some form of military connection is required, but that doesn't mean you personally need to be active duty or a veteran. The U.S. military is one of the biggest communities in the country, and chances are someone in your family or even within your close circle has served in some capacity. You just might not have realized that connection yet. So here are the most common ways to qualify. First, you need to have an immediate family member who served or is currently serving in the armed forces at this time. If you do, then you can be eligible. And that includes your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, a spouse, children, stepchildren, adopted children, and even your grandchildren. You can join through them even if they're no longer active. Second, if you live in the same household as someone who's either a Navy Federal member or affiliated with the military, like a spouse, a partner, or a roommate who has served, you can qualify as well. In fact, that person can provide you with something known as an access code, which helps you enroll quickly. Third, if your connection comes through employment, that actually counts too. Civilians working for the Department of Defense, contractors, and DoD support staff are all eligible. And of course, veterans from any branch are welcome to join as well. Now, let's cover something people like to call the backdoor method that is actually not a secret. It's just something most people overlook. If you had a family member who served but has since passed away, you can still join through them. So for example, let's say your grandfather served in the Navy years ago Even if they're no longer with us, you can call Navy Federal, provide his branch, the relationship, and they can usually verify that information internally. You don't need old military IDs or paperwork or discharge documents, just simple details like their name, their branch, and maybe the era or time frame that they served in. Once verified, Navy Federal will often approve your membership. With that said, keep in mind that membership eligibility requirements can change at any time, so always double check with them when you apply. And here's the best part. Once you become a member, you gain the ability to open the door for others. So you'll be able to refer your own family, your own household members to join, allowing that access to continue expanding for future generations. So don't let the idea of military only discourage you. There are far more ways to join Navy Federal than people think, and it's absolutely worth exploring, especially if you're serious about tapping into that kind of high limit funding that Navy Federal is known for. If you're unsure where to begin, just start by asking your family. Again, odds are someone close to you has served, and that one connection could be your ticket into one of the most generous credit unions in America. So you can call them at 1-888-842-6328 today to begin your membership. Before we dive into the strategy, I want to reiterate one core truth with Navy Federal that everyone needs to understand. It is built on relationships. Because of how they're structured, members routinely see better interest rates, bigger credit limits, and smoother approval paths on loans. That's the reason so many people gravitate towards Navy Federal, especially when they're rebuilding or aiming for substantial funding. Here's another reason. Navy Federal can approve up to $80,000 in credit line per member. And yes, you heard me right, up to $80,000. So if you're in a situation where you're rebuilding or repairing your credit profile, you don't need 5 or 6 different cards. You can concentrate on one strong product that scales with you over time. When I started rebuilding my own credit, that's exactly where I planted my flag. I knew I wouldn't land a huge limit on day one, but I also knew Navy Federal could increase my limit as my relationship deepened and my internal score climbed. So even if your score isn't where you want it to be right now, this path remains extremely powerful. If I had to pick only one card to take me from low credit limits to premium limits, I'd choose Navy Federal credit cards with no question. Now that you see why Navy Federal is so effective and why a single line carries so much weight, let's walk you through the precise strategy to unlock high limits step by step. Everything I'm about to explain comes from real-world results and my own personal experiences. My goal here is to make this as clear and actionable as possible so you can follow along confidently and see real progress. So just like the previous video, once you're officially a Navy Federal member, the first step is to open 2 key accounts, a flagship checking account and a money market savings account. Now, a lot of people, even in the previous video, asked me why these 2 accounts. Well, that's because Navy Federal operates on relationships, and these accounts have the highest balance requirements. In the past, I've worked in underwriting, and I can tell you that the more money you leave with a bank, a credit union, or honestly any financial institution is going to be something that makes them want to lend more to you, because banks operate on a fractional sharing model, which means they're able to lend out money based on the amount of money that you leave in their bank or their credit union or any financial institution. So with that being said, it's obvious that the more that you leave with a bank, the more likely they are to want to lend to you. Not to mention, the stronger your relationship, the better your internal score will be, and that internal score plays a huge role in your approvals and your limit growth. Again, your internal score reflects your overall activity with the credit union, how much you leave in deposits, how much money you keep in the accounts, what type of products that you use, and how consistently you interact with them. The more stable and active you appear, the higher your trust factor climbs. So once those 2 accounts are open, the next step is to leave them active for at least 90 days before applying for any credit card, especially if your credit is not perfect. Think of this as your relationship building phase. You're giving Navy Federal time to get familiar with you and to see that you're consistent, engaged, and serious about being a long-term member. If your credit is already solid, you technically can apply right away, but from what I've seen and tested myself, waiting those 90 days often pays off. And again, I've seen this with many financial institutions. It takes about 90 days to establish a pattern, and that's what they're looking for. So that short period of trust building can dramatically improve your approval odds and also boost your starting limits when you do finally apply. Here's an example. Someone with good credit who applies right away might only get approved for a $5,000 limit. But if that same person waits 3 months, keeps activity flowing, and lets Navy Federal see consistent balances and deposits, their initial limit could easily double to $10,000 or $13,000 or even more than that. I mean, I've seen up to $25,000 for an initial starting limit. Now let's talk more about these two accounts. The Flagship checking account is Navy Federal's premium checking option. It pays tiered dividends, which is basically interest based on your balance. Now, the rates aren't the highest in the world, but they're still better than zero, and they show engagement. As of right now, balances under $10,000 earn 0.35% APY, and between $10,000 and $24,999 earn 0.4% APY, and anything above $25,000 earns 0.45% APY. To qualify for this account without having any fees, you need to maintain at least a $1,500 balance in the account each day. Now, I'm not saying that this is a requirement. I'm saying it looks good for the bank. If you cannot afford to do that, don't force it. Just get a regular checking account that does not have a monthly fee. However, if you decide to keep this account, doing so will not only earn you passive interest, but it will also signal to Navy Federal that you're financially stable and responsible. Next up is the money market savings account. This account also contributes heavily to your internal score. It pays 0.95% APY on balances over $2,500, and that rate will increase the more that you hold. It'll increase up to 1.50% APY for $50,000 or more. So to take advantage of those high tiers, you'll need to keep at least $2,500 sitting in the account. So ideally, you'd open both accounts, the Flagship checking and the money market savings account, and you would keep around $1,500 in the checking and $2,500 in the savings, and then set up direct deposit if you can. Direct deposit is one of the strongest trust signals that you can send, and it doesn't have to be your entire paycheck. Even a partial deposit works, but what matters is that you're consistent. Regular inflows show Navy Federal that you're using the account actively, and during this 90-day relationship window, let your balances sit and let them grow. You want to use your debit card occasionally, maybe transfer funds in and out here and there, but you want to keep some activity going. Your Navy Federal account should be engaged and reliable, and if you already have products like the pledge loan, that's even better. Now, this same strategy applies whether you're a brand new member or someone who's already got their foot in the door. Once you hit that 90-day mark, that is your green light to apply for your first credit card. Now, at this point, your internal score has developed, your account history should be somewhat solid, and you've built some trust to give yourself a real shot at getting a strong approval. By then, Navy Federal sees the pattern, your deposits, your consistency, you maintain balances, and you use your accounts responsibly. This is the kind of behavior that leads to approvals and higher starting limits. And remember, this is not about just getting approved for a high limit credit card. You want to get the max credit exposure of $80,000 that each member can get. That is the long-term goal, not just to get a credit card, but to build scalable funding that grows right alongside your financial health. If you want to add more products later, like the pledge loan, a personal loan, or even auto financing, you can, but still, I would stick to that 90-day rule before expanding. Build your base first, strengthen your relationship, and then you can branch out. Now let's move into the next major phase of this strategy, applying for your first Navy Federal credit card. So if you followed this plan up to this point, you waited your full 90 days, you opened your Flagship checking and money market savings account, and you kept your deposits consistent, ideally setting up direct deposit, your internal score should now be in good shape. Now, before filling out any application, start with the pre-qualification tool on Navy Federal's website. This step only results in a soft pull, which means it won't impact your credit score. You'll simply enter a few basic personal details, and Navy Federal will show you which card you're most likely to be approved for. Now, this video is focusing on the Cash Rewards credit card or the Cash Rewards Plus card. However, if your pre-qualification results only show the Cash Rewards secured card, Don't worry, that's exactly how I started too. It simply means you need a little bit more time to rebuild your credit profile, but you're still very much in the running. The secured version requires a refundable security deposit of at least $200, which becomes your collateral. That card reports to all 3 major credit bureaus, helping you build history and demonstrate responsible usage. If your credit profile is stronger, you might see offers for the cash rewards credit card. However, in order to help you with this process of getting approved for higher limits, you might want to check out my credit repair playlist. In that playlist, I have things on how to remove charge-offs, collections, late payments, anything that might be prohibiting you from having a strong credit score. So if you want to check that out, a link is in the description to click on that playlist. All the videos are there. If your credit profile is stronger, you might see offers for the Cash Rewards unsecured card, and if you're approved for a credit limit of $5,000 or more, you'll receive a Cash Rewards Plus card. You may also see the More Rewards Amex or the Go Rewards card. All of these are great unsecured options. Each are capable of growing up to $50,000 in credit limit over time. And our strategy is still applicable no matter which one of these cards that you choose. And if your credit score is excellent or your internal relationship with Navy Federal has developed quickly during that 90-day window, you may already be pre-qualified for the Flagship Rewards Visa. That's the card from our previous video, which I'll link right here if you want to check that out. This is the only Navy Federal credit card that can have up to $80,000 on a single line. Now, if you're trying to spread limits across multiple products, like let's say $20,000 on the Cash Rewards, $15,000 on the Go Rewards, and $35,000 on the Flagship, it's more effort to manage and doesn't offer the same streamlined potential for growth. However, you can hit the $80,000 exposure faster by going that route. If you guys would like to see a video on that, then I can definitely make one showing you the fastest way to get that $80,000 by spreading it across 3 Navy Federal credit cards, which is the max amount that you can actually have on the personal side. Now, if you qualify for the Flagship, I always recommend going for it. The minimum starting limit is $5,000, which gives you an immediate head start towards building those higher lines. But here's the truth. No matter which card that you get approved for, the key is to begin. Whether you're holding a secured card, an unsecured Cash Rewards card, or a Flagship Visa, every Navy Federal credit card reports to all 3 credit bureaus and feeds directly into your internal score. So even if your first approval feels small, you're laying down the groundwork for much larger limits down the road. And in the next part of this process, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps to grow this limit over time, especially if you're starting with the secured card. Follow this strategy, stay patient, and Navy Federal will do what they've always done for consistent members. Reward loyalty and progress with bigger approvals and stronger funding opportunities. Let's break down how long it realistically takes to build your Navy Federal credit card limit all the way up to $50,000 using the Cash Rewards card, depending on where you start. Everyone's starting point is different, so I'll go through each example depending on where you currently are in your credit journey. So one more thing. Navy Federal has something called the 91-in-3 rule. Basically, it means when you open a brand new credit card with Navy Federal, you can request a credit limit increase within 91 days. Every subsequent increase will have to be every 6 months. And unfortunately, if you have a secure card and that card graduates, that counts as a credit limit increase. So unless Navy Federal increases your secure credit limit in 3 months, it will take you a little bit longer to do this. I have an entire video that I released. It's called Before You Apply for a Navy Federal Credit Card, Watch This. I'm gonna link that video here if you wanna check that out. It talks about the Navy Federal 91-in-3 rule and kind of gives more details to how you should apply. Now, if you have bad credit, the secured card path will most likely be your option. This is where you're starting from the bottom, and I'll give you the timeline, which is exactly where I started. You'll begin with the secured Cash Rewards card, and your goal is to graduate to an unsecured card and scale from there. You'll begin by depositing at least $200, but you can also deposit up to $5,000 into your membership savings account. That deposit will be your initial starting credit line. Now, the earliest that you can possibly see a credit limit increase on a secured card will be within 3 months. You don't have to add any more money to your deposit in order to be eligible. They will do this automatically. However, whether your credit limit is increased will depend on your current limit and other credit factors on your profile. After 6 months of you opening that secure credit card, Navy Federal will review your credit card account monthly to see if you're eligible for an upgrade to the Cash Rewards unsecured version. Once your card graduates, you'll often receive an initial unsecured limit of around $2,000. Now, if you deposited more money than $2,000, you could receive a higher limit, so keep that in mind. Graduation, though, it does count as a credit limit increase. So from that point, you'll be eligible to start requesting more limit increases every 6 months, up to $8,000 per increase. Following the same pattern of 6-month increases, it will take approximately 3 years and 6 months to reach your $50,000 goal from a $200 secured card. And that's of course if you receive the full $8,000 increase every 6 months after year 1. Now, I have an entire video about how to maximize your credit limit increases. In the past, Navy Federal lets you put the amount you wanted for your credit limit. They don't allow that anymore. So there is a way that you can actually send some signals to Navy Federal that will give you the full $8,000. Now, I suggest you watch that video after this one if you want to see what that strategy is. Now, this might sound like a very long process, but it's actually fast in credit building terms. Most people with bad credit can never get close to that kind of limit because they give up too early. The key here is staying consistent with your Navy Federal relationship, because the longer you stay, the more generous they will become. Now, for those with fair credit, things might move a little bit faster. If you're approved for an unsecured cash rewards card with, let's say, a $5,000 starting limit, your first credit limit increase will come 91 days, raising your limit to around $13,000. 6 months after that, another increase would take you to roughly $21,000. After the first year, you'll continue requesting increases every 6 months, and again, you can add up to $8,000 max. By staying consistent and following the system, you can expect to hit that $50,000 limit in about 3 years. That's the beauty of Navy Federal's relationship-based model. Once you've proven that you're responsible, they'll keep rewarding that loyalty and performance. And keep in mind, you might start out with a $10,000 limit or $15,000 limit even with fair credit. I'm not sure where you might start, but depending on how high the limit is when you start, the faster this process will be. If you already have excellent credit and a strong history with Navy Federal, you can reach this goal again way faster. So let's say that you got a $25,000 credit line as your first initial starting limit. Your first increase would then take again 3 months, 91 days, and then that would take you to around $33,000. 6 months later, you'd already be sitting around $41,000. After that, just one more increase can push your card to about $49,000. And of course, you're only $1,000 away from $50,000 at that point. So one more increase will get you there. So in total, you're looking at roughly 21 months or 1 year and 9 months from start to finish. That's really if you care about that extra $1,000 or how you take a look at that. That's less than 2 years to max out a $50,000 credit line, assuming you keep your utilization low, you pay early and on time, and you maintain steady account activity. This approach isn't just about hitting a big number, it completely transforms your financial credibility. I have seen some comments of people asking me, why would I need a $50,000, $80,000 credit line? And I think that some people have a misconception about credit. Credit isn't a loan. You're not supposed to carry balances. When I'm talking about this, I'm speaking of it with the intention of someone to use this responsibly and paying the card off all the time, not going into debt. I think it's kind of weird that people would assume that having a high limit credit card somehow means you're gonna spend more money or carry balances or purchase things that you can't afford. I never looked at it that way, and for the people watching this video, I wouldn't expect you to either. A $50,000 personal credit limit shows lenders that you can manage large amounts of available credit responsibly, which is the point. That directly improves your FICO score because high limits reduce utilization ratios and they demonstrate strong financial discipline. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Once you have a $50,000 personal limit, other banks will take notice. Lenders like Chase, American Express, and Citibank are far more likely to match or exceed your existing limits when they see that level of trust from another major financial institution. And if you're planning to expand into business credit, that matters even more. Many lenders use your personal credit as a reference point when determining your business funding. So having a $50,000 personal limit shows that you can handle large balances, and that will increase your chances of receiving high limits and business credit lines. All in all, it's a very good thing, and the expectation is that you handle this responsibly. The Navy Federal Cash Rewards Card isn't just a cashback card, it's a relationship tool. You're not just applying for credit, you're building a partnership that can scale into tens of thousands of dollars in available funding. Whether you're starting with bad credit or you're already established, the path is the same. Build your internal score, apply strategically, follow the 91-3 rule, and request limit increases every 6 months thereafter. Stay patient, stay consistent, and watch your line grow. And if you've been a long-term subscriber of mine and you followed this method before, please drop a comment and tell me about your results. And if you're starting fresh today, save this video, come back 6 months from now, and update us on your progress. I love reading your success stories. They help other people believe this is possible. And remember, I've got an entire playlist on Navy Federal strategies, from the pledge loan to the Go Biz rewards card, linked right down in the description. I highly recommend that you check that out. If you're serious about unlocking $50,000 in funding, these are the next steps that you need to take. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen to me, and you have a wonderful day.